Second speaker for the proposition, Connor Mui.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honored jury, distinguished members of the opposition who are exceptionally well dressed, by the way. It's a real honor to be here. Now, the first thing opposition tells you today is they give you this example of the Thanksgiving dinner, appealing to this ritual of the typical American family. But there is no typical American family. There are no rituals which everyone in America accepts unconditionally. What do the single mothers think, struggling to raise children? Do they accept this ideal? What do the marginalized black inner city youth think of this tradition? Do they accept these suburban values, or do they reject it in favor of an urban counterculture? What we're going to show you today is that there's no single American culture that holds of the entire country, but rather many various subcultures that compete, that contradict each other, and undermine the existence of a single American culture. Opposition today talks to you about symbols. They talk to you about symbols like the flag, symbols like the Statue of Liberty. We have two great responses to this. First, even our symbols are not our own. The Statue of Liberty is from France. France has its very own Statue of Liberty. But second of all, we tell you that it's not just symbols. And I'll take you later. We tell you that it's not just symbols. We tell you that it's ideals that must unify us. Now, what do we get from opposition here? Opposition says we have these things called freedom, liberty, and equality. But an ideal is not just the word, ladies and gentlemen. An ideal is a shared understanding and interpretation of what that word means. And we believe that it's very, very clear that Americans across the different regions of the country have such different interpretations of those words that we simply cannot say they have one culture. Now, I was born and raised in New York. I support the rights of all people to get married. I think we should learn evolution in schools, not Noah's Ark. So please, by God, don't tell me I'm from the same culture as George W. Bush. I really don't want that to happen. Now, our argument today is that regionalism prevents the formation of a national American identity. Sure.
All these beliefs that you just mentioned are also typical in France about the gay marriage. That does also mean France has no culture.
What I believe, first of all, this argument isn't about France, but I believe that cultures themselves are not something that can do hold of national identities like America. Now, whether or not France does have a culture, I'm not going to get into, but rather that if there are such extreme differences across a country, it means that it prevents the formation of a single identity. No, thank you. Now, what I want to talk about with regards to the United States is that in many countries, a shared religion, the shared beliefs and customs and political values that religion entails, is a source of culture. It's a unifying source. But America, both today and historically, has a tremendous diversity of religions, a diversity found nowhere else in the world. You've got 31 types of Christians. You've got Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and atheists. No, thank you. And furthermore, the strength of this religious belief varies tremendously. No, thank you. Varies tremendously based on what region of the country you're looking at. You've got the Bible Belt, where there's a Bible in every nightstand. And you've got liberal California, where there's a condom in every nightstand. Now, in these areas of the country, religion is simply, no thank you, religion is simply not a major force in political life. And what this means is that there's no single American religious culture, and this impacts the diversity and the contradictory nature of American political beliefs and social behaviors. Now, how exactly do these regional differences reflect the varying beliefs and political attitudes in America? I think it's pretty clear that the tremendous differences between someone from San Francisco, California, and Houston, Texas, make it impossible to say that both come from the same culture. Let's think about some of the issues that Americans are so deeply divided on. Gay marriage, gun rights, abortion, censorship. Should we censor sexual content from our airways? Sex before marriage. Is it fun or is it a sin? Here, I'll take you now.
Guess what? That's true in every country. Again, does that mean that no country has no culture?
I think it's perfectly valid for us to say that cultures simply don't hold of national identities, that various subgroups within a culture, for example, Parisians might have a culture, but it's hard to say that a single national identity has a culture. Now, I think there's a lot of evidence for this when we look at the American political system. Now, in the American political system, there are 24 states where governments are under complete Republican control. There's no chance of Democrats taking over. There are 14 states where Democrats are in complete control. There are fewer and fewer what we might call purple states, where people share some type of mixed, moderate opinion. There's fewer and fewer people that hold some type of shared, moderate American political belief. And what this means is that there's strong evidence that there's not one America, but at least two Americans politically. People in different states and regions consistently believe different things and act in different ways. Now, it's interesting debating here in front of an overwhelmingly European audience. I want you to think about some of the stereotypes you might have of American people, whether it's a single stereotype or many very different images of American culture. When I say Texas, you probably think of George W. Bush. You think of country nut jobs. Thinking a little bit deeper, you might think of evangelical Christians who attend church every week, hunt regularly, and hate gay people. Now, when I say California, you probably think of some liberal pot-smoking hippies. Now, the fact is, these stereotypes are extreme, but they in fact result and represent real regional differences in America. And these regional differences that compete, that demonstrate fundamentally different political values, show that there's no single American political culture, that different regions foster radically different worldviews and practices. We are very proud to